we need to record this, especially for the people who can't attend the webinar. So Candice and I are actually connected, I think, for more than a decade. We actually went to school together, as in university together. So she was in the engineering department, I was in the science department, but none of us were in anything digital or technology related back in the days. Anyhow, we ended up being in the same industry, working in our current jobs now. And so thank you so much for joining, Candice. Before I hand it over to you, obviously we would like to do a quick introduction. So let me quickly share my screen. So this is how the whole webinar would go. Obviously, we're going to have a quick intro, then we'll hop onto the interview. So obviously, I'm the host today, so I'll be interviewing Candice. Obviously, she's more of the expert in AI than I am. We are building some AI products these days as well. So she's basically our sort of consultant to go as well. And afterwards, we will have a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, save it up. We're going to have like a Q&A for at least 10 minutes. So you guys can, open your mics and start talking. So first thing first, quick introduction of myself. I know some of you know me, some of you follow me on LinkedIn as well. My name is Moon. I'm the founder and CEO of DigitSense. I have been in the tech industry for as long as I can remember, ever since I left school, basically. And I have started off DigitSense around 4.5 years ago. We're a software product studio, i.e. we are a studio that builds especially digital software products. Most of our products are consumer-based applications, web app, mobile apps, but most of them are in a specific industry. We serve especially founders, startup founders and corporate venture arms, especially with product design, development, and marketing. So if you're a founder in SaaS, fintech, health tech, AI, or any other related fields of technology, these were all the fields that we serve. Hit me up at the end. There will be a Calendly link at the end of the webinar. So over to you, Candice, for your introduction and your company intro as well.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Moon. Yes, I've known Moon for a long time already, and interestingly, none of us are actually working in the field that we studied in, but here we are. And so I'm Candice. I'm a senior product manager at GenAI, and GenAI is a British company, a leading B2B AI company specializing in proposal and bid writing. We empower our clients in different sectors and also different sizes to be able to generate proposals in minutes rather than hours, helping them to win more bids as well. I focus on empowering AI within GenAI using RAG techniques, meaning retrieval augmented generation techniques that will help to reduce hallucination and help to better evidence bids within GenAI. And also, I build out the bid writing workflow experience for our users to cater for the needs in the enterprise. I have a background in B2B, fintech, cloud tech, SaaS companies, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and to explore more about AI strategy and products. And also, if you want to know more about GenAI, feel free to reach out and I'll get you someone who's an expert to speak with.
Great, thanks, Candice. So as far as I remember, once you left uni, so once we parted ways, basically, you went into finance, right, as a technology manager?
Yes, so I actually joined an investment bank as a technology analyst, and I started my career as a business analyst. And fast forward today, became a product manager and also got experience in different types of companies, mainly startups and scale-ups.
Okay, that's perfect. Because obviously it aligns with what you're doing right now, because GenAI is more of a B2B product. And your background was always in B2B products as well. So my understanding is you have seen the entire industry transform, obviously, from a more corporate environment, which is, I would say, a little bit more rigid, maybe, but correct me if I'm wrong, to something that you're doing right now, which is Gen AI related. Can you tell me about the changes and also the market dynamics of B2B products, especially this year or since the era of OpenAI?
Yeah, of course. And I think there are two things. So the first thing is you see that there is a lot of like growing trends where AI is being sprinkled in all sorts of products, and you might notice it in your B2C products, but very much so in the B2C space. And this is because people can really see the value that this is driving. For example, based on what Microsoft has done with Copilot, it's really focusing on enterprise level support. And also, a lot of people are finding lots of value in cutting down time to do manual work, and also being able to just look for the information with a few clicks rather than in the past you need to troll through lots of information. This sort of trends means that AI will be added in most of the products that you have subscribed to in a B2B sense. And also, secondly, people are much more educated about AI generally. This can be like seen in a lot of our sales calls and also interactions with the industry. And people care a lot about being able to jump on the AI train, being able to like help with their, for example, in our case, would be winning more bids and being able to improve their business performance and productivity. But it also means that security is at the forefront of their concerns. B2B companies really need to pay attention to how they are addressing these concerns from the clients. Like, for example, are you able to offer more secure solutions, such as like being able to deploy your products on-prem, and also whether you can get certifications that could help you to prove that you are a serious player in this space. So this is something that is being brought up a lot during different types of conversations.
Okay, understood. And so, because from my understanding, especially we do a lot of UI UX, and our team put a lot of time on UX research as well. I think the whole user experience and the whole consumer behavior did change a lot ever since AI came out. Because if you just imagine how you navigate through ChatGPT right now versus how you navigate through a normal app that you have been using, I don't know, Uber or something that you have been using for more than a decade. The whole experience is very much different. And also now, obviously, OpenAI had a collab with Apple. So Siri is now integrated with ChatGPT. It's not even a typing or a visual experience anymore. It's a complete change into like audio, visual, whatever. How would you say that since AI came out, like how did it really change the entire consumer behavior, and how did you guys adapt to it?
Yeah, you raised a really good point about we call multimodal experience. For example, people are now expecting to be able to interact with voice or images or videos with AI. And also you can see that because of these demos and also announcements from Apple, etc., you can see that people have actually much higher expectations on user experience compared to a few years ago with B2B products. So for example, in the past, you can get by saying that, oh, we're going to build something that works, but then it's not so nice to use. In B2B space, I've experienced that myself in a bank where like people are just saying, oh, but it works and it doesn't hurt that it's not so convenient. But then people are much more educated, and it means that, for example, in our space, where bid writing and also proposal writing has become more and more competitive in terms of like having new competitors entering the market, and they will be able to compare and contrast the demos that you're giving. And it means that workflow experience is becoming much more important to drive sales and also retain customers, because people are expecting a different level of user experience. So from our point of view in the company I work for, we spend a lot of time refining our user experience as well. So, for example, we make use of like user interviews, client interactions, getting feedback from sales, analyzing deal loss and also challenges, reasons, and also figuring out why we're winning certain deals. It really helps for us to like drill down on that customer experience and being able to help to build a product that is sticky and also can retain clients. And more importantly, we actually spend a lot of time thinking about where it makes sense to put AI, and sometimes it might not make sense to put AI because, so, for example, if people are just trying to add a new chatbot within a product, you might realize that, okay, like I'm just seeing one more thing on my screen that's blocking my space of like doing my work. And you need to make it coherent and actually making sense rather than, oh, I'm going to jump on a bandwagon and start adding AI. So things like this, we do spend a lot of time considering before we build out like features for our clients.
Great point. I remember because I think it was probably you mentioning it to me previously. It's kind of like when you go on a shopping experience on whatever branded Shopify store right now, they suddenly have all these. It's kind of like Clippy, if any of you remember. So back in the days when Microsoft was introducing AI back in the days, that was I think in the 1990 something. Sorry, just exposing my age here. But if you land on the Microsoft Excel or a Microsoft Word at that point, they actually have this uh, AI assistant thing that kept popping up in your face. It's kind of like a paperclip mascot, and it's super annoying. Obviously, they took it away afterwards, and nobody ever uses it now. But AI is pretty much doing the same thing, and these chatbot is pretty much doing the same thing as what they're trying to do now. And the whole thing you want to do is just to kind of get rid of it. I guess that's what you're trying to refer to. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that's why it's really important to actually add value, and you will be able to identify. Um, I would say that from a product development point of view, it makes a lot of sense to start from the basics and really try to map out your user experience in your product, and actually identify friction points or things that require a lot of manual handling, and then start adding AI from those points rather than, oh, let's add a chatbot because everyone is doing it and it's easy to add, and then I'll do the checkbox exercise of, oh, I'm now AI powered. But you might, in my opinion, I think it just makes a lot more sense to really leverage this opportunity, or people are still really interested in trying out new things that has the AI label, and then really try to delight your users in that way.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, I mean, at this point, right, your company is at Series B, almost at Series C. Am I right?
Yeah, we raised our round of funding, Series B, last December. Yeah.
I see. Got it. So I think obviously you're already way beyond the product market fit. But I did see a lot of like earlier stage founders trying to sprinkle AI, as you mentioned. So can you tell us a little bit more? Because it is a longevity game, that's my subjective opinion. Because if there isn't a real use case or a real value proposition, there is no way that you can play an AI game for a long time, especially when investors kind of hyped out, which they always do because they invest in whatever is trendy. So can you tell me more about how you guys position yourself and how it made you go all the way until where you are now, which you basically qualify as a scale up already?
So maybe I can start with like explaining and describing and give you a bit of information of the founder story. So AutoGen AI is actually started by Sean Williams, who is actually bit writer by trade, and he has got another company that specialized in training and apprenticeship, and so he has got lots of experience dealing with procurement and also dealing with the headache of writing bids, writing proposals in order to win contracts. So he has lots of domain knowledge, and he also is able to like bring in people who have bid writing experience and background that has worked in lots of big enterprise and steeped in this game for a long time. And what he noticed is that back in 2022, when OpenAI hasn't actually launched ChatGPT, um, he sees the value of Gen AI being able to really automate and streamline the work that bid writers need to do, because bid writing and proposal writing for governments, federal governments in the US, or for like large companies can be very difficult and very time consuming, and also it's a high pressure job as well because you're always fighting deadlines. So generative AI is actually perfectly suited for this particular space. So the value proposition is very clear. We want to help writers to reduce time to the first draft and increase productivity, and more importantly, increase the win rate of the contracts, because ultimately you don't want to be churning out more proposals, but they don't win you anything. So you want to be also bumping up that win rate. And we're able to prove that our tool can actually do that. So for example, some statistics here, we were able to reduce the drafting time for the bids by 70% and then increase 241% for success rates for your bids. And more importantly, I would say that from the experience of like where I've worked in and compared to the company I'm working for, there's a very strong focus on business domain knowledge, as in we want to be able to build a tool that actually would help the user, the target users that were picked, which is bid writers, bid managers, and also people who are working in the bid work stream, and really like focus on their experience and also being able to move the metrics and prove our value. Because if we're just making it a flagship saying that, oh, we are AI powered, it's actually not so special anymore in this market. You can see that there's a huge democratization of this particular technology. It's so easy to create a ChatGPT wrapper and then just say that, oh, I'm an AI application, but you really need to be very clear like what you are trying to achieve here and also what problems you're really trying to solve. So really very much like going back to the fundamentals and going back to the first principles of like, are you really solving your user group's pain and also helping to delight them?
Understood. So you mentioned obviously you guys started off before ChatGPT came out, and that was I think GPT-2, right? That you started off with, or maybe earlier. So back in the days, like from your knowledge, like how were you guys starting off the product? Because I think some of the our audience who dialed in today are still at an earlier stage. Right now, obviously, we have ChatGPT 4.0 and everything is different. But when you first started, how did you first adopt the entire generative AI into the framework of the product?
So I joined like last October, but then I can tell you a bit more like about our approach generally. So um, it's very much about being quick and dirty, try with a prototype and then get it to the market really quickly and then and really try to validate it really quickly, because the market moves so quickly, and you can tell that like based on my observation, last year anything that has AI printed on it would get funding or would be told, oh, this is so cool. But then now people are so quickly educated and understood the value of AI and has like a particular set of expectations. It's really important to really verify and validate by like talking to different people, getting businesses to try out your prototype and then get feedback. I think a lot of the product market fit is based on being able to get some sort of like POC deals signed, and then also getting people to really give you feedback, and also being able to identify clients that really can see your vision. And if you feel like and also the market is honest, I would say, you quickly see that if people are not willing to pay for it or not willing to even try it out, or they are just being polite and decline, you quickly know that certain things don't work. And I think that a lot of this sort of interactions have happened in order to achieve that product market fit.
I see, got it. Surely that there will be some limitations as well, right? Because so sorry, I'm just trying to be educated right here. And obviously we are all new to Gen AI. It's a pretty new idea. I actually worked in AI and machine learning years ago. That was before 2015. That was before OpenAI was even a company, I believe. And back in the days, we call it machine learning. We have big data. Like these are all just buzzwords. But what we worked on were like natural language processing, computer vision, and things like that. Those were actual real use case that were being adopted back in the days. And nowadays, I think generative AI sort of opened a lot of doors. But I still have some questions in mind, which is I understand that a lot of things can be using Gen AI, but LLM models are a little bit different from what we are using for specific machine learning model training. So let's say, I'll give you an example. There actually my first ever project was an HVAC project. So HVAC as in like hyperventilation, air conditioning. So it's more for civil engineering purposes. And back in the days, we were using machine learning algorithms to train and make sure that the air conditioning is optimized so we're not wasting energy. So it's actually for a green company. This is my understanding of machine learning, but obviously these data is collected by IoT devices and so on. So these use cases might not be completely usable or trainable on an LLM, right? Because obviously I think I'm not sure if I'm making it clear here, but do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
And
of
the
course.
limitations.
Yeah, of course. So I'll say that like generative AI slash LLM, large language model, is just a branch of AI. So for example, we know that there are limitations to like LLMs, and the reason why it spreads so rapidly is because you're able to actually use natural language to interact with it. And for the use cases that you mentioned, for example, like analyzing a huge amount of data and then finding like doing pattern matching, they're still like very useful. And but then it also means that you might need to go through different ways of like cleansing your data, and it will be different for LLMs. You might still need to cleanse your data, but it's slightly different. And I would say that each would have its own use case. Like for example, based on the things you mentioned, like with identifying the most optimized flow rate or something like this in your use case, probably you would use a combination of both things. And that's why to me, AI is very much just a new technology that helps you to solve a pain point that you have identified. And you shouldn't see AI as an end rather than a means. It's very much like you have something that you want to achieve, and AI is currently the technology that's available to you, and then you can actually rapidly prototype and also rapidly put it into your product in order to solve that problem. And very much like in the future, if there are new ways of using a new technology that can solve the same problem, then I'm sure that people will make it quite easy to also adopt if there is a strong use case for it.
Okay, understood. And so can you give us like some examples of these use case that you can think of? Like what can be using LLM and what cannot be using LLM?
So, for example, what LLM can do very well is actually using like semantic search capabilities to like collect a lot of information that's text-based from many places. So for example, one of the things that are super common use case is like Microsoft Copilot. You might have lots of information reports and also lots of like previous things you have written, and Copilot can help you to collect those information and find the information that you need through a chat interface. And in this situation, this is like super useful. And also, for example, if you want to build an app that gives you an experience of, oh, you can talk to someone, but then actually there's no human behind it. Like for example, customer success, or there are some companies that are looking into, okay, how do I do coaching? Maybe is there AI coaching possible? And a lot of people might realize that actually talking to ChatGPT about your problems are actually quite fulfilling. Some people do actually find that. And this is one of those use cases where if you focus a lot on like user experience and also customer facing experience, this is quite useful. But the limitation with LLM is that if you have really data heavy, and you want to do analytics, I believe that this is not the right solution because it it is not text based, and it is still needing a lot of number crunching and also like pattern matching. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, just to follow up on that. Great point, by the way. It is indeed very engaging. I stand corrected because previously I always thought, there are a lot of limitations to AI developing any sort of human conscience or even talk like a human being. Because right now, the whole ChatGPT 4.0 thing kind of changed my mind. So I remember it was like 3 weeks ago when it first came out. You talked about personalized and personalization and UX basically. I remember training. I didn't even train it, honestly. It was just so smart. I went on ChatGPT 4.0. I told them, can you pretend to be my partner, my boyfriend, and talk to me? I have had a very rough day. I would say that the answer is way better than most people would come back with. I think it's very soothing because usually if I ask my boyfriend, I usually ended up being angry instead with the feedback. So I guess it is getting there for sure. I think because before that, funny enough, I was talking to a business partner of mine, and we were talking about he is very much an AI expert as well. And we were talking about developing something because you mentioned customer success, and which most people still stayed at the understanding of a chatbot. So most of us kind of ditch that idea because if you go onto a traditional banking website, everyone has a chatbot, and all of them never solve your problems. So the only thing that you need to do is go into the chatbot and type human support, and then they will send you to a human support. And that frustrates the hell out of me. So when I was talking to my partner, my business partner, I was mentioning one use case, which is how I basically closed down a traditional corporate banking account with a big bank, a multinational bank, because I was so upset with how they sell me loan products that I never really need. I don't really want them. And that was more like relationship managers not really doing their job. But then when I thought about ChatGPT 4.0 and the use case that can be adopted, especially with Gen AI, with human conscience, is maybe there could be an AI relationship manager at the bank that can know me better and that actually remembers things that I said by the way that I train them, and also I probably will be fed the right product. Maybe I need insurance product instead of loan products, and that would have been an easy close with me. I guess that would be something that I was really looking into. So what would you say is like the possibility? Would you agree with me on like how AI can personalize UX in general?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that obviously like there will be like lots of like data hurdles, regulations we'll need to look into, like whether you're giving information to like the AI model in order to understand you better. Um but definitely like for example, based on like we are already seeing that like in say Instagram knows exactly who you are and knows exactly what to feed you. So why can't a bank like or another maybe a retailer being able to actually identify what you might like and then feed you the product that you might want, and then you can just keep chatting with it and then say, oh, I don't like this color, can I get another set of like clothing or like some accessories that could go with like whatever you are trying to buy. And this is definitely something that LLM would do very well because it's able to like draw a lot of information from like different sources as long as it's being like fed into the right data format, and it gives you a really human experience and also a tone of voice that would be suitable for the brand. Like for example, a clothing retailer would speak completely differently to a branch manager of a bank. So you have a lot of opportunities to tune this and make sure that you are giving the right experience and also right tone of voice to your customers.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And would you say, especially with that capability, it actually opens more doors, but also it kind of closes the doors for salespeople nowadays? Because we always thought that AI is only going to replace redundant tasks or anything that is operational. And seems like it's opening up a new thing. Now salespeople are getting fired. Maybe I'm gonna lose my job tomorrow as well. So my question is like how do you see that going in general? Just completely subjective.
I personally think that salespeople will still have their jobs because I think people, especially in the B2B space, people really enjoy a real human interaction. But what could happen is that a salesperson would be much more empowered and to understand their customers even better with AI. For example, you might be able to collect more information of like the of the person that you're trying to sell to, like within ethical limits, and but also being able to understand a lot more about like how to talk to certain people and what to do instead. And you can actually learn it through like talking to AI and also learn it through like different sales enablement software that might have AI empowered features that allow you to learn exactly how to talk to a different person based on their backgrounds and also based on the company that they work for, their location, etc. So there could be I would say that it could even be more of a companionship rather than replacement of salesperson. So salespeople would know how to better target and also better sell their products.
Okay, yeah, got it. So talking about salespeople, obviously it's more communication, it's more stakeholder management. I understand that your job is pretty much the same. Obviously, you don't sell, but as a product manager, you always have to convince your stakeholders or investors or your founders about, some product development stuff or even a new feature. How would you say AI really impacted your job in specific then?
I would say that from a more micro point of view, I now use AI every day in order to check if I'm making grammatical mistakes and also making sure the writing really flows well. And another thing that as a product manager, you would be able to ask like AI tools to create personas and like interrogate your product plan and requirements documents and also more importantly the tools that PMs are using for example Notion, ChatGPT or Figma. They now like ChatGPT is basically AI enabled, but basically Notion and Figma have their own AI feature that allows PMs to like rapidly build something new. And for example, I use the Figma AI diagram generation quite often. And it means that it's just less time for me to do things I used to need to do like for a longer period of time. Basically faster first draft. And from a macro perspective, I personally think that all products will have AI in some form or another. It's just a matter of time, especially in the SaaS space. And it's just really important to build up an understanding of what AI can do for you and how you can make use of AI as another technology that you can think about building and adding into your product stack. And also another thing is going back to the fundamentals, like we'll still do it even without AI, but really identifying pain points, friction points, and manual handling tasks that are repetitive. And we would be able to like start thinking about how to add AI or add another like technology in the future as a start rather than just focusing on, oh, do I need to know like what's the most powerful like LLM in the world right now? Probably, but at the same time, it's so important to really just ground yourself with like a real use case rather than getting too hyped up and excited about like all the new announcements because at the end of the day, you want to build something that people would enjoy and people would need.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that leads us to obviously, I was gonna ask you and wrap it up as well, because it's been half an hour. Don't want to bore everyone with it. So you talked about getting really just hands-on and get your hands dirty basically with AI. And you also mentioned, it's changing over the time since last year getting investment was super easy. It was just like that. And this year it's everybody was really looking into something solid and a proposition that is money making basically. What would you say would be the future of AI and evolution? And also, how can people keep up with it and keep themselves competitive? Not just an individual, but let's say as a founder, if I'm doing an AI product, how can I keep myself competitive?
Yeah, so I would say that based on the like announcements that are rapidly coming up, um, like it's actually really important to just try to use the product yourself and then try to think about like how I would have done it, how I can use it, and how do I integrate it into my workflow? Because being able to simulate how your users might actually think is an important step in product management and also product building. And it wouldn't be too dissimilar in like trying to found a software product. And in terms of future trends, I would say that LLM is definitely becoming a commodity. It has become like much cheaper to run LLMs, and also you can easily spin up a prototype yourself in like just one person company. If you find the right niche, you can make a lot of money just by having one person in the bedroom coding away. So a lot of the improvements would come from making LLMs more usable, quicker, as you can see with like GPT-4 compared to like GPT-4 Turbo. And but we're not expecting a huge breakthrough on reasoning power that really first wowed people when ChatGPT comes up. And also another thing would be regulations. Lots of people are really caring a lot about whether we are seeing another domination of big tech, whether there are further regulations that will be needed in order to make sure AI is not working in a black box. And I think this is definitely a space to watch because, as I mentioned previously about security, a lot of the products that we're using have pretty vague like regulations around it, and also only people who are more like security conscious would be actually looking through the data agreements and realize that wait, they are actually training on your data. So as a consumer or as a builder, we might need to think about, okay, like are we dealing with dealing with sensitive data that we might need to think about which market we're operating in. And naturally, if you have your market in the US, you might have less regulations that you need to deal with, and also less regulations you need to really think about in order to tailor your product. But if you're in the EU or in the UK, then it's definitely something that comes up much more often, and people do care about it when they are trying to decide whether they want to buy your product. So definitely a space to watch out for.
Okay, that's great insights. Thank you. I think we're done with all the questions of our interview. So let's get on to the Q&A session. If it's open to everyone. So if anybody has anything, just unmute your mic and then we can crack on with it.
I have several questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Bill.
Thank you both, actually, Moon and Candice. This has been very informative for me. So I'm an AI junkie or nerd, but I'm new to this stuff, and I know this stuff's evolving very quickly. But I learned a lot today, which is pretty cool, and helps me think about the product that I'm developing from my niche and my industry, which is the nutritional supplement industry. One question I had about UX for you guys is. In terms of the consumer, and I'm talking about B2C, and B2B, it's still a consumer, different kind of consumer. But in terms of you mentioned this about these Autobots. I remember that paperclip thing, the word, I hated that thing. I tried to turn it off, so it kept coming up all the time. And I think the chatbots are the same way. If you go to GoDaddy and you set up a website, it's automatically built into the website, and it's kind of annoying. Nobody really uses it, and it doesn't really give you value there. So for me, what do you think is the most critical thing to do for UX, for the consumer experience? If you can anticipate with, first of all, consumers really don't understand AI and the back end of it, right? So I already see within my industry, people talking about AI designed products. Well, that's kind of BS because that's not really, you still need someone that understands the science and that sort of thing. So from a consumer standpoint, how do we give the right experience? What's the most critical thing you think for the consumer? It really doesn't matter what the industry is. What is the consumer looking for and based on what they know about AI today?
Maybe oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you first.
Okay, cool. I can answer to that question, especially because we work a lot on e-commerce as well. So obviously we're talking about individuals that buys everything, like it can be any brand, any product.
Yeah, right.
I would say as a consumer, you don't really want, it's a fine line. There are people who would sell literally I use the word shove it down your throat, which is kind of like what Google is doing most of the time. So it was quite creepy back in the days. I stopped using Instagram, but back in the days when I was using it, which I am pretty sure they're spying on my phone right now, I would be fed anything that it's just a normal conversation, you and I having a coffee chat,
All
and I'm
right.
talking about go-karting or whatever. Then next day, they're gonna feed me a bunch of go-karting experiences on Instagram, which is kind of like shoving down your throat. And this is not even AI, it's just spying, basically. So
Right.
that's across the line, I would say, as a
Yeah,
consumer, because
I
I don't
agree.
want to buy.
I agree.
But also, I would say right now, if I go on social media as well, they're probably still feeding me something irrelevant, which, with all honesty, is kind of like the banking experience that I told you guys about. You know, the corporate banking selling me loan products, and I don't even need a loan. I think that's the most important thing that we need to target, especially with understanding your users and personalized. I would say hyper personalization and hyper targeting. That is the most important thing in my point of perspective.
Okay. And
Um,
if I think, Candace, I'm sorry, you have a comment there.
No, I think like I completely agree. And to be honest, I think another thing to really watch out for if when you're adding AI and like enable feature is make sure you test so much that you make sure that you're not cannibalizing other parts of your product. Because sometimes what could
Right.
happen is that, like, for example, you add a new chatbot on the like on your mobile screen, and it's your mobile estate is already really small, and then you added a new thing that you click on, and you're blocking other things, which is more important. And it I think it's just like one of those things that is like super important when trying to introduce new AI feature, because this is what I've seen time and time again in B2C products. Yep.
Okay. Uh, I think of it, at least for my niche of what I want to do, it's an extension. I mean, I've been in my business for almost 30 years. So for years, consumers would come up to me and say, "Hey, Dr. Bell, what product do I take for this?" So even though I'm a subject matter expert, I have a limited capability to know everything about what's out there. And so for me, I see the application as a tool that enhances basically who I am to create that experience for the consumer. So, it gave me the idea, you're going to laugh about this. I just watched that movie Atlas with Jennifer Lopez on Netflix, where it's in the future where they have neural links where it's not AI and it's not human, but it's something new, where the combination of the two together actually is a different kind of experience. So I guess that's what my vision is of creating what this is, that it's a different kind of experience where it's an enhanced version of me or tool expertise that the consumer can interface with in a very personal way.
Yeah, that's a great one. I didn't watch that movie, but I am trying to picture what you just mentioned.
Well, I mean, it's the thing that stood out for me and the whole premise of the movie. Yeah, it's just, I love sci-fi and everything. But anyway, this is like, okay, this is really touching on the subjects we're talking about. And there was a whole thing about that she didn't want to do it because of it's invasive, right? So, so I think that's a watch out. And I mean, I work in a regulated industry, so that means I can't make recommendations or products for people. It's totally got to be unbiased in terms of brands based on the science and the disclaimers there that are appropriate for whatever market it is in terms of regulation. So this
Yeah,
is
fair
important.
enough. Yeah. And I understand because it's kind of, but also this is just my point of perspective, because it's kind of difficult to quantify each and every single sale. It's just
Hmm.
like if you go to a pharmacist, if I'm looking for even if it's a prescription drug or anything that is like you said, right, nutrition supplements, it's hard to quantify whether or not the pharmacist or the salesman are they doing the right thing.
Because they're biased.
Easily.
Well, they're biased because they're even people who are so-called nutritionists in the field or whatever. I mean, there's an example in the UK, some woman on TikTok, it's a social media influencer, who's a nutritionist, supposedly, touting an oat Zempic, not Ozempic, weight loss solution with oats and lime juice and some other food, which is totally bogus. So it's preying on consumers in a way that's kind of, come on, man, really. So I want to eliminate that crap. I'm not going to go directly at it, but I want to go at and provide a solution that actually is real, that has real value to the consumer. And then you don't have to fight the social media the crap that's out there and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all had experience with that. So it's totally understandable. Cool.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No problem. Any other questions?
Nobody?
Yep. Anyone else in the panel?
I think Mike has
There's
a question
in the chat.
Yeah, in the chat.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Let me check. Mike, I'll read it out. My question is for a business looking to implement AI into their services. What strategies do you recommend them to use to effectively educate their users about the benefits of upcoming AI integration? I think that's for you, Kenneth.
Yeah, of course. I would say that really you need to ask yourself why you're adding AI into your service. Is it because it's a good PR opportunity? If so, you might have a different ways of integrating AI, and there will be many other ways to do that. But if you are really trying to look for friction points or more importantly, maybe the business has already have those in mind, then I think the strategy that I would recommend is really trying to just try it out yourself and then try to start small, have an OpenAI account, or I think that you can actually get LLM services via Azure or AWS as well, and then just try to do something small and then actually test it out and then maybe get some clients or users that are quite friendly and then start giving you feedback and then see whether it's really giving the expected value. Because I would say that, as I mentioned, LLM is really commoditized at this point, and it's quite easy to integrate. Anyone who has some basic programming knowledge, they should be able to easily call an API and then start integrating from that point of view, and start small and also really have an idea what you're trying to achieve. Because, for example, I mentioned if you want to do it for PR purposes, it's not a problem, and it will have a very different implementation strategy and also prototyping cost compared to, okay, we actually have a business problem to solve, and really ground your solution based on what type of problem you are really trying to solve there.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Mike, does that answer your question?
Maybe I can also follow up a little bit on this. So I recently joined a product conference, and there were people who are actually product consultants for startups, and they were telling us that, okay, it was actually quite difficult to tell their clients that they don't need AI in their products. And sometimes you might not actually need it, and the real problem isn't going to be solved by AI. And they are finding the conversation quite hard to conduct because people are so hyped up and they think that AI can do everything. And really, I think this is probably the type of conversations that you might need to manage if you're a consultant or if you're advising a startup. And it really goes back to the fundamentals, like what are you trying to do here? And putting in AI is not a difficult thing and is not costly at all, but you need to have some sort of idea what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually making some content yesterday regarding that as well. A lot of people kind of took it the wrong way. I've had so many people inquiring me these days about, integrating AI into their product. That's exactly what you were talking about, sprinkling it. And at the end of the day, I always think having AI or the AI product is an individual product market fit that you need to figure out. And the product itself without AI is another product market fit that you need to figure out. So at the end of the day, there are two sides of things that you need to test out really, because I would say I understand that you said it's a commodity, but from a business person's point of view, especially, I handle all the company finances. I know how AI can stack up with the bills, especially if you're using more of a turbo or any high performance LLM model, that is when it really stacks up on the back. And I understand that there are actually, startup accelerators or funds or even credits from OpenAI that can do that. But if we are to scale, or there are more and more users, which is a good problem to have, it can cause some problems. And I would say that could be a liability, I would say, if you didn't commoditize it properly, because it's a very fine line in between the two of the operational cost and obviously the revenue that you're earning via AI product itself.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. And there will be trade-off that you need to make when you scale. And as you mentioned, it's a good problem to have, like if the usage is so high, and hopefully, like by the time this happens, like you have proven that fit is working, and you might need to make trade-offs. Like for example, can you use like smaller models or use models that are not so performant but cheaper to use in order to do this task? For example, if it's something that you don't need immediate response, you just need to process in the background, you might get away with like using a lower version model, and which will use less computing power. So there will be techniques in order to help companies to scale without racking up huge bills. But we know with cloud bills, it can stack up really quickly. So it really depends on like what you want to achieve and how to deploy those operational strategy when your company is ready to take the next step.
Yeah, that's some great insight indeed. I guess we are almost there with the hour. So
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go
for you
ahead.
guys?
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's related to what you just said, Candace. I think it's really important to develop the prototypes very quickly in a lean startups fashion and tweak them and really work with them that way. And I think it's a combination of things of what's existing. I've heard somebody say this, and forgive me if I don't have the vocabulary right, if it makes sense, this is not my area, but given what's available in terms of generative AI today and base coding models, I don't know if that makes sense. If you're piggybacking off what's already been developed to develop your product, and you can do that, I suppose that's okay. But I think in some cases you're still going to have back end. There's a lot of, you're going to have to train the machine to learn your specific area. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's going to require more, right? More than what's available as a database or data set that's out there, right? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, so there are quite a lot of techniques you can deploy. So there are some open source things, for example, that help you to deploy RAG, which is, for example, you have a database of information. Let's say you mentioned that you are a nutritionist expert, and you have a database of knowledge that you want to be able to put it into the app. And let's say you put it into a format of table, or you put it in the format of text, and you can use RAG techniques in order to parse them in a vector database, and then have the embeddings ready, and then do semantic search using it. And there are ready solution on the market, so that is open source. So it wouldn't cost you beyond hosting the solution. So for example, unstructured IO is one of those solutions that you can start looking into. Okay, how do I build up a pipeline that would work for my use case, and then use vector database that is also available open source. And currently I think there might be some like hosted solution that you can really quickly build up your prototype, but I'm not quite sure about the costing of those. And also there could be like data security issues. So it depends on what you want to do. But another thing that I find really useful is really using like Figma for wireframing, because a lot of the times we just want to prove if this experience is gonna work. And I collaborate a lot with the designers and also my engineers to build up prototype that doesn't quite have a backend ready yet, but then it's ready to be demoed to like key users or people who have like wealth of knowledge in the space, and start from there. And then we think about the implementation details afterwards. So that's how we can do rapid validation.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess we're coming to the end. Just want to say a quick thank you to everybody, and obviously Candice, our guest speaker as well. We will have more and more of these webinars coming up, and it should be a monthly thing, so stay tuned. Also, if you're interested in contacting us, actually there's a QR code right here that you can scan. If you want to book a meeting with me, scan the one on the left, and if you are interested in what Candice is doing, scan the one on the right. So I guess that's pretty. Oh, sorry, there's someone in the chat. Thank you so much, Freeman. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you all, and hope that we'll see you soon again in the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.